The orchestras were one of his favorite things to do. So we're going to begin our celebration today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Mark Moser. I have known Scott in about 47 and a half or 48 years of my life. The greatest man I ever knew. I want to tell you a little bit about his family for a minute, because his biggest love was his family. His mom and his dad, Pat and Lee, sister Susan, 3 children, Robin, Ben, and Jeff, and his adored grandchildren. A lot of them are here. Yes. And then the love of his life, Lynette, and her daughter, Katie. Scott was always proud of what it is that he did. He was proud of what it is that he did with his children, and he was proud of what his children and his family did. So there's one Saturday, Scott and I, along with his son Jeff, were driving down to Carson City. We had to go to this church and take a look at this sound and light system. So we get to the church, and we find up on the rafters underneath the roof is this huge beehive. Bees are swarming all over the place. Scott was very intrigued with the bees. He was very intrigued with nature. So he asked the pastor, "What's going on with the bees?" And the pastor said, "There's a beekeeper coming that's going to take the bees down." And so we're standing there watching these bees for a minute, and the pastor calls us into the church. We get into the church, and we're looking at the sound system and the lights for a few moments, and I really mean a few moments, when Scott turns to him and says, "What's going to happen to the bees?" Those of you who know him knew that that's what he would say. So the pastor tells him that this beekeeper's coming, is going to remove the nest and the queen, and they're going to go off somewhere safe. We couldn't stay inside the church. We had to go out and make sure that the bees were okay. He reassured the pastor that the sound and lights would be taken care of. We can fix that. That's not a problem. We have to make sure the bees are okay. We couldn't go into the truck or get out of the way until Scott had his moment with the bees in nature. So Jeff got to be able to stand there and watch his dad and this love for nature as he does. I introduce to you Jeff Bergstrom.
Thank you, Mark. And thank you, everyone who's attending. It really means a lot to the family to see all the community support from all of you, especially for you Niner fans who are missing the game right now. If you're not a Niner fan, I'll pray for you. Once again, I'm Jeff. I'm the youngest of Scott's 3 children. We'll be covering many parts of my dad's life through many lenses today. Scott is a father, as a friend, as a coworker, and for my part, I'm going to cover the religious aspect of who my father was, and then pray us in. I'm going to talk about a man that many called friend, many called teacher, a man with abounding patience. Oh, you thought I was talking about my dad. I was talking about Jesus. Funny, though, how many similarities they had. Was my dad perfect? No. Was he sinless? Oh, no. A lot of you guys here can attest. But did he model kindness? Yes. Did he love fiercely? Yes. Did he change lives for the better for all those that knew him? Absolutely. There are many similarities between the two because my dad had Jesus in his heart. He lived that truth. The Bible says numerous times that this is the only requirement to reach heaven. So do I think my dad's in heaven? No, I know he is. We've gathered here to celebrate his life. But it's a celebration not only of this life, but in the next, where he lives on in heaven, a place where there's no more death, no mourning, or crying, or pain. For the old order of things has passed away. It's Revelation 21:4. And the lessons that my dad taught us will live on through us, through our children. There have been many tears shed over my father's passing, and there'd be no cause for sadness if there wasn't love first. And love is God-given. Love is God's nature. My dad loved deeply. Loved animals, loved his family, loved his work, and he loved God. Jeremiah 21:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future." And I am hopeful. I am thankful. Thankful that I was able to have 39 years of great memories filled with love, wisdom, and life lessons. I'm thankful that the Lord blessed us with such an amazing man. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, I come to you humble today and in thanks. Thanks that you gave me such a good father and put a man on this earth that shined your light and touched so many lives. I just thank you for all the memories and all the good times, bad times, and all the lessons. And I just pray you be with us during this service, be on our hearts. Lord, we lay this at your feet. I pray for everybody that you just have your supernatural peace wash over them. Be in our midst, Lord. And we just give thanks. In Jesus' awesome name we pray. Amen.
So as he was saying his age, I looked over and I saw this 12-year-old kid. That's how I remember him. So Robin was Scott's first joy. She was the firstborn. So we're going to fast forward a little bit when Robin was in high school. There was an afternoon when Robin met her dad for dinner. I had to drop him off at the parking lot. And as they were walking away, hand in hand, to the restaurant, Scott was just beaming and glowing. He was having dinner with his daughter. The happiest times were when he spent time with his family. To give the eulogy today, Robin Bergstrom Jazz.
Scott Bergstrom was brought into this world on June 4th, 1952, by Lee and Patricia Bergstrom. Alongside his little sister Susan, they were raised right here in Reno, Nevada, a place in which he called home. From a Wooster Colt to a Sigma Nu at UNR, his feet were planted firmly in the biggest little city in the world. Hello, my name is Robin Jess. I am Scott's daughter. As I look across this room at hundreds of people, I am overwhelmed at the impact that one man, my dad, could have on all of our lives. Several of your faces I know, some of you I don't. Most of you know my dad as the man behind the stage. I stand here in front of you alongside my brothers to introduce to you the man within his home. Dad's first love was Star Sound Audio, a company which he founded at the young age of 23. He met our mom at 25, and by 29 years old, he had 3 young children. During this time, he was busy growing his company, providing for his family, and building our childhood home in Hidden Valley, which would one day become famous for Dad's Christmas illusion of the tree going through the roof. Our dad was a patient man, slow to anger and fast to forgive. He was humble, curious, and soft-spoken. a man of few words, yet full of life lessons. Today, I will unpack 3 lessons with the goal of bringing light to the man who my brothers, Katie and I, proudly call Dad. If you can't do it right, then don't do it at all, he would always say. He was always one to underpromise and overdeliver. I remember running for student body president at Worcester High, and a few days before the candidates were to address the student body, I asked him to please help out with a couple speakers and lights for my talk. The bell rang and students quickly followed the blaring music coming from the gym. As we rushed through the vibrating doors, we found speakers that hit the roof and a light show appropriate for a Kiss concert. That was my dad. That night and several nights before and after, my brothers and I threw a raging house party. If you can't do it right, Dad, don't do it, we would mock him. Everyone knew that once Dad pulled in the driveway, it was time to leave. No words had to be said. No one wanted to disappoint Scott. People left quietly. The brave looked up, looked him in the eye, and said, "Thank you." Dad never lived in the limelight. He never needed to. His happy place was shouldering the hard parts and putting others in the spotlight. The parallels between his career and him as a father were uncanny. Dad made us kids believe in ourselves, and he told us all the time how proud he was. I often wish that I could see myself through my dad's eyes. Rob and Noel, he'd say, "There's nothing in this world that you're incapable of," and I believed him. The second lesson was always leave a place better than how you found it. Dad, you nailed that one. Over the past month, I've received several notes from strangers sharing their stories about how Dad impacted their lives. Words used included, "He saved me," "He took me under his wing," "He put me back together when I was lost," and "Robin, your dad changed my life." Time must have stopped for my dad. How can one man create enough hours in the day to be so much to so many people while fulfilling his daily obligations? It's truly divine. A few years back, Vaughn and I flew into town with a couple babies in tow. We blew through the door like a hurricane, which always drew a silent smirk from my dad and slight panic from Lynette. Once the house was perfectly imperfect, I noticed that a giant corkboard abruptly took over our entire family room wall. With white styrofoam pieces carefully nailed to it, I quickly concluded that he did not get my grandma's artistic ability. "Dad?" I asked. He quickly gathered us onto his couch, their dog Bailey sprawled out comfortably, defiantly replacing his human children. "These are the plans for the church that I want to build," he told us with excitement. He carefully walked us through the land development and the building design of this church, his dream church, behind the river on the east side of Grand Sierra Resort. As he rambled on and on, I stared at him in complete admiration. I was so proud that this man was actually my dad. Grand Sierra bought the land the following month, but he never gave up hope of another opportunity to bring people closer to the Lord. Now, as my brothers and I brainstorm ways in which we can bring his dream to life, we can conclude that it did not take a building by a river to bring light and comfort to those in need. He did that himself. My brothers and I followed Dad's spiritual footsteps. Our youngest brother, Jeff, serves as a sound engineer at the church that he helped recently plant. You'll soon hear from our friend and pastor ways in which we hope to leave this world a better place, just the way he taught us to do it. The last life lesson before I close is the hardest. It's the one that he lived for. And ultimately, it's the one he died holding on to. "If you choose a job that you love, you'll never work a day in your life," he would say. Our dad truly loved serving people. His brilliant musical mind was the way in which he served. Dad lived a full life, captivated by music. He stretched the limits of all things possible and dreamt big without an ego. He never took time to eat or sleep, but he always picked up the phone when we called. It didn't matter what building he was on top of or what casino he was rappelling off of. He always had time for a childhood call. My dad's work brought him tremendous joy. It was never a job, only another challenge to bring happiness to anyone listening. Dad died on January 9th in a perfectly scripted manner, as if he wrote the narrative himself. He was mixing the Philharmonic in his recording studio, quiet, selfless, and completely unshaken. His handsome face was described as peaceful, as if he made it through the gates of heaven and wanted us all to know that he was okay. Dad lived and died doing what he loves. How many of us can say that? From the time I was a little girl to standing here as a grown woman, my dad will always be the one who hung the moon. A daddy's girl to the core, it breaks my heart to know that I will never hear his voice again, but I am comforted knowing that he is always with me. He is with me more in death than several lifetimes could allow. And when I call out for him, he still answers quickly. Dad's spirit is among us now, and he is smiling at each and every soul in this room. From the bottom of my heart, on behalf of our family, thank you for coming today to pay respect to Scott Bergstrom, our hero, our dad.
So, Robin,
Yes. I got no more.
no, you actually do. There was one thing that you did for your dad that he told me was the best thing that you ever did for him. And we've discussed this before. You made him cut his hair. Right? And then he turned to me and said, "Don't ever tell her that." So he can haunt me now all he wants. I'm okay with that. So Scott and I were driving the truck. Well, I wasn't driving, I was a passenger. Scott was driving the truck. We're on our way to a show. If I remember right, it was on the way to Carson City. And the truck's pretty big, it's full of equipment. He's driving down a highway and he turns to me, literally turns to me and says, "Ben wants to be a brewmeister. I'm never gonna run out of beer in my life." And I'm freaking out because here's the truck going down the highway at 65 miles an hour and he's like this. And that was your dad. Ladies and gentlemen, Ben Bergstrom.
Thank you, Mark. Things haven't changed. Still, as you guys all know, Dad spoke in riddles, and I think one of his riddles was, I may not be a brewmeister, but I do, in my own way, do exactly that for a living now. I am the operating room bartender. So, with that said, my dad was a lot of things. Way, way more than one person can describe in a day, never mind 4 to 5 minutes. But those are the memories we will share when telling the stories about Scott. Those are the memories we will have when stuck in a problem that only Dad can solve. I'm often stuck in problems as a new leader and a new owner. Dad was at 23 and I was at 41, and I am still 41. Dad answers some of those problems when I get sick calls in the middle of the night and don't know what to do. All of you that have worked with Dad know that sick calls, shows must go on. And raising up to that expectation to where he is and all the people that he served is something that I reach for every single day at work. Over the past few weeks, I found myself reminiscing of the fondest life's memories I had of my dad. The numerous great ones that I had the joy of reliving, I prefer to share with you in passing, or by campfire, or a bedtime story. But here, I'd like to speak to how my dad influenced our everyday lives growing up. There was never a time in our lives that we needed anyone more than what we had. There were surely times that we had difficulties making ends meet, as there were times that we didn't get everything that we wanted. But from the times we lived in a small apartment off Neal Road, to the times we upgraded to the house that he designed himself, and still remains largely unchanged from our childhood, we never lacked the love that he bestowed upon us. He loved, and he loved often. You could tell by the way he hugged. Anyone that's received a hug from Dad knows. And he loved animals. There was never a time I can recall that we didn't have a pet, and usually of an unconventional species. Yet he had toned that down when he started his family. No more bobcats at the Sigma Nu fraternity. No more alligators living at the bathtub of his folks' house. And no more monkeys. They're dirty and they're rude. However, monitor lizards, full-grown iguanas, and any other animal that needed nourishing remain on the pet list, and they all became Bergstroms. I can go on and on about the stories of each of these animals, such as when the monitor decided to take a chunk out of his finger, or the life cage he built for the iguanas that ended up in the walls that he ended up tearing down weeks later. But what I'd really like to share with you is the lasting impressions that Dad influenced upon everybody here. Nobody has met someone more dedicated than Dad, nor has anyone lived in such a sea of passion. Doing good for others was the cognomen of his name, of his passion. To provide others was the purpose of his being. He has served every single one of us here without asking anything in return. But this evening and tomorrow, I ask something for return. I ask you to remember something special he has done for you. Share it with someone, sometime, and share it often. This will help keep his passion alive and celebrate who Scott was and the life he has lived. He'll be missed, but never forgotten. I love you, Dad.
As Robin indicated, the children, Scott's children, with the church, decided to think about this adventure that he wanted to do. And so for that, we have a small video that we'd like to play.
Hey everybody, my name is Chase, pastor of Anthem Church in Vista, California, and I want to invite you on behalf of Scott Bergstrom to give to church planting. In honor of his name, one of his dreams was to plant a church, and he never got to fulfill that dream. And so his kids, in his name and in his honor today, are inviting you to give to church plants like ours. Every single dollar you give will go to help start a new church. New churches come alongside people in their community who are hurting and broken, help families who are vulnerable, serve their city well. And today, as you give in honor of his name, just know that it's going out to something really, really powerful. So thanks for giving. Scan the link below and get involved in honor of Scott.
So this is the QR code. The information is also on the Star Sound website. If anyone would like to help fulfill Scott's dream, please feel free. If you're not, there's no pressure. But it was a passion of his and a dream of his. That's all there is on that.
Good evening. Quite a turnout. I woke up this morning thinking of Scott when he was 10. we'd gone out north of town to learn how to use a rifle. I could see him as plain as day. Images like that keep coming back, as they should. Scott left us as he would have chosen. He was working on the final notes for the Reno Phil Christmas concert that was beginning the next day. He finished them, then he dropped dead. Not a bad way to go. You have to go, and we all do eventually. No Alzheimer's, no cancer. Just finish your job and go. Thank you for being here.
That was Leroy Bergstrom, Scott's father. When Scott talked about his dad, absolutely. When Scott talked about his dad, if he was sitting, and you all know that he was a tall man, he would sit up a little higher. If he was standing, he would stand a little taller. Scott, in his heart and his soul, believed that his dad was the best person he had ever met in his life. So that brings us to Susan. Sister Susan. So when Scott would talk to me about his sister, he would say, "That's my sister Susan, don't mess with her." And then those of you who would know, he would have that silly little laugh that's the only laugh I cannot imitate. And with that, Susan.
Thank you, Mark. Well, I'm here to represent Scott's childhood. Growing up, we lived over on Reeves Avenue, which is up in the northwest, back when 7th Street was 2 lanes, and it ended at the top up by the church. Everything else was dirt. And it was a wonderful, wonderful place to grow up. We had the chalk pits, that are now homes, to play in, and one day we were out at the chalk pits, and there were birds who lived actually in the walls of the chalk pits, and mama bird had died, and there were 4 babies. So Scott picked up the 4 babies, brought them home. True to his nature, he taught those baby birds how to fly. They're Winkin', Blinkin', Nod, and Charlie. And yeah, that was Scott. He was always trying to teach people how to fly. Scott was always building things. Even in kindergarten, he built a 7-foot giraffe. You know, how did he know how to do it? We have no idea. He just did it. And that was Scott. He liked ghost stories. Now, Berg's mom, my dad's mom, lived 2 doors down from us. And we kind of had the run of the garage. And for several years, at Halloween, Scott would build out a place to tell ghost stories. And he had the place rigged up so that ghosts would fly from here to there. And that's the first time I saw him use cellophane for lights, for the light system. It was in my grandmother's garage. One of the things that those of you who have lost someone have gone through, and if you haven't lost someone, you're going to go through it, is that some of the memories that you shared are also gone. But I swear this is true. My brother and I, one evening, when we were still sharing a room, saw a UFO. And it came down, it was shaped like, you'd think a UFO would be shaped like, a saucer. Came down out of the clouds, went back up, came down, and then it sped off sideways at the rate of speed that was unheard of at the time. This is the very, very early 60s. Now I don't have anybody to attest that, yes, indeed. I had a witness, we saw a UFO. Scott made the first skateboard in our neighborhood. Remember the old metal skates? Well, he took some of the metal skates, put a board on them, and started zooming around the neighborhood as best as he could. Shortly thereafter, real skateboards came out, and he decided it was a good thing to teach our mom how to skateboard. And this probably lasted for, good 10 minutes until she fell down and broke her elbow. That was Scott. He was always experimenting. Now, we had relatives in Alameda, and this is where he learned about skim boards. I don't know if he ever told his kids about this, but he became fascinated with a skim board. Now, a skim board is this, in our day, it was a round piece of wood, about yay big diameter, and you would throw it along the seashore as the waves would come in, and it would skim across the top of the water. You'd jump on and, just kind of go for a ride. He loved those things. Well, we live in Nevada. We don't have really beaches and waves like that, not even at Tahoe, because the waves usually come up, or the beaches come up. But he decided he needed a skim board at home anyway, and by darn, it started coming in handy, because where we lived, my dad had built a basement onto the house. And every so often, we'd forget that the water was on, watering all the roses and the plants, and the basement would flood. Scott would go get his skim board, and he would fly across the basement floor. He was an extraordinary skier. Now, he and his friend Pete Eggleston used to ski Gun Barrel, which is the face of Heavenly Valley, backwards. All the mogul, they'd ski it backwards. He got his first car when he was 12. It was a BMW Isetta. For those of you who don't know what an Isetta looks like, it's a three-wheeled vehicle, flat in the front, kind of goes back. And it's uglier than sin. And the way you get in and drive this vehicle is you open up the entire front of the vehicle. It was two people. Step in, close it again, and take off. He loved that car. Oh, he loved that car. One of his later cars was his Gremlin. This is back in the early 70s. And for some reason, Gremlin wasn't working correctly, so he decided to take the engine apart. When he and he did not know what he was doing. It never scared him when he knew that. And he would, when he put it back together, there were some long pieces left over. The car ran fine. Never had any problems. Scott worked as a bagger at the Sewell's grocery store in downtown Reno. He also spent a summer working for a family friend who was a lawyer. Took economics and accounting classes at UNR. Well, he abhorred accounting. My dad and I are both CPAs. He abhorred accounting, doesn't like paperwork. Well, he finally went to a guidance counselor and to find out what to do to graduate, because in our household, you are going to graduate for college. You're going to get your degree. So they figured out that the quickest way possible for him to get out of college was just a simple shift over here. Does anybody know what Scott's degree was in? Barb, I know you do. He graduated with a degree in agricultural economics. Go figure. He started playing guitar and took lessons both through Maytown Music and privately. Maytown's was his favorite place to hang out. He could pick up an instrument and play that instrument with no prior knowledge. For those of you who are familiar with the tune Bourrée by Jethro Tull, and it is in the slideshow, the flute solo in Bourrée, he learned in less than a day. Greg can attest to that. He was amazing with instruments. When we grew up, the folks would go down to Maytown's once a month and pick up instruments. He'd rent instruments. So we were exposed to all kinds of things. I was fascinated with the flute, but I couldn't get a sound out of it. I ended up playing string bass. Still have the string bass after 53 years, too. Music was very, very important to him. When he went on, actually after he came back from touring with Morning Sun, and that's the last, real time that he played in bands, he was tired of that part of the music scene. He said, "I'll never go on the road again." And he essentially stopped playing guitar. His kids have never heard him play guitar. His favorite guitarist was Andre Segovia, and my brother was actually that type of quality on the guitar as Andre Segovia. But he came back and he said, "Why play in a band when you can play the entire band?" And that's what he did. He didn't put his guitars down. They were in the studio at Star Sound, still there. And he still uses, especially his Giannini, which is a classical guitar. But it's another one of the talents that a lot of people, even though they've known Star Sound for a long time, they may not have known about the way that Scott could play. He has three favorite pieces of music. I went to him about 7 years ago, and I said, "Scott, I want you to give me your three favorite pieces of music, your three favorite colors." So he said, "Okay, well, spring greens, Tahoe blues, and candy apple red." Candy apple red was the color to have on a car back in the 60s. He loved candy apple red. His favorite songs, pieces of music, were Canon in D by Johann Bachelbel, Bohemian Rhapsody, Queen, and For Emily, Wherever I Might Find Her, with Simon and Garfunkel. Well, it took me 7 years, but Scott finally got to see Canon in D, the musical score, and that's the quilt. That's Scott's quilt. So today, we have here part of his favorite band playing his favorite song.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Reno Philharmonic, I can't speak for some reason, the Reno Philharmonic Quartet. Thank you. So we have a very special presentation for Scott today. And to present it, and representing the city of Reno, Beth McMillan.
Good afternoon. This is a true honor for me to read this to all of you. Office of the Mayor, City of Reno, Nevada, proclamation. Whereas, in loving memory of Scott Bergstrom, 1952 to 2021, who was an integral part of the City of Reno and our region in so many performances over the decades, and whereas, in 1975, Scott began Star Sound Audio, Inc. by opening a pro audio retail store, and since then, Star Sound Audio, Inc. has been serving local businesses, musicians, casinos, churches, performance theaters, and schools in the northern Nevada area. And whereas Scott and Star Sound Audio specialized in concert sound reinforcement, professional lighting productions, audio-visual rentals, and pro-audio sales, and has supplied sound and lighting for many of our region's annual events, such as Hot August Nights, the Best in the West Nugget Rib Cook-Off, the Great Reno Balloon Race, El Dorado Great Italian Festival, Street Vibrations, Nuggets Brew Ha Ha, Lake Tahoe Summer Music Festival, Barbecue Brews and Blues, and so many more. And whereas we could go on and on about Scott's accomplishments, not to mention his loving friends and family who will be sharing some of their favorite memories and stories to laugh and cry together as we remember a wonderful person who will be so deeply missed. Now, therefore, I, Hillary Sheevy, Mayor of the City of Reno, Nevada, do hereby proclaim Sunday, January 30th, 2022, as Scott Bergstrom Day in and for the City of Reno, Nevada, and encourage everyone in the City of Reno to give the biggest little city appreciation for all of his dedication to the audio world and for all of our enjoyment over the years. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. What an honor. What an absolute honor. Come on up. So, Scott was blessed with 3 children, or so you thought. And then Katie came into his life, one he claimed as his other daughter, Katie Bennett.
Thank you, Mark. I will never forget the day my mom first met Scott. I had only moved out of the house about a month before. When I called to check in, my mom answered the phone with, "I can't talk, I'm at P.F. Chang's." I replied back, "You're on a date. I'll call you back." A few hours later, I heard all about Scott and how he slid into my mom's DMs, as the young kids say. My mom has always been a natural-born romantic, kind-hearted, thoughtful, caring, funny, and genuine. But unfortunately, she was never with anyone who truly appreciated her in the way she should have been appreciated. This all changed when she met Scott. Scott truly loved her from the bottom of his heart, and so did she. They were each other's sun, moon, and stars. More often than not, I would find them kissing each other affectionately and would always yell out, "Ew, gross," every single time. I thought it was so incredible that after 15 years, they still remained passionate. Scott did everything for my mom. We make fun of my mom for loving old black and white movies, but it was him who changed cable providers when Charter dropped Turner Classic Movies from their lineup. If you haven't noticed, my mom is pretty bougie, and Scott fully supported her love of all things glam. He was always surprising her with designer gifts, once-in-a-lifetime vacations, and even a new luxury car. My mom, in return, always had a hot meal ready for him when he came home, even if it was after 10 p.m. She would have the dinner table set with my grandmother's china, which reminded him of his own mother, Patsy, and the way she would set the table. My mom even had Scott dressed in bougie name brand designers, even if it did have the Star Sound logo added to the front. Together, they both shared a love of the movies, going almost every Sunday to see the newest movie of the week. They saw the same beauty in the Reno Philharmonic, the variety of different art that Art Town brings to our community, and she was his groupie at every show he worked. A part of me thinks Scott always knew how lucky he was, but never truly appreciated it until the pandemic happened and life slowed down. Together, they talked about finally updating the house, traveling to see the kids and the grandkids more often, and going to Germany so he could take her to see the Sleeping Beauty castle. These were just a few of the things on their bucket list. Life wasn't always the easiest for them. When my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer 2 days before Thanksgiving of 2019, he remained strong in front of her. But I will never forget him collapsing into my arms and saying, "I can't live without her." Together, Scott and I made sure she was driven to every appointment. Her hand was held the entirety of her grueling 13-hour-long chemo sessions, and we tended to every need and care she wanted when she just didn't have the energy to do so herself. He was her rock. 3 weeks before Scott passed away, we joined my mom by cheering her on at her last chemo session. My mom was his darling, and he was her lovey. I was lucky enough to witness this deep love on a regular basis, and I only hope that everyone at some point in their lifetime finds a love like this. Their fairy tale wasn't always perfect, but it sure was a classic. Thank you.
So, Katie, you talked about the first day that your mom had her first date. So Scott said to me the next day, "I met this wonderful lady, and you just have to meet her. So now you have to meet her, Lynette Bennett."
I am Lynette Bennett. We are gathered today to mourn and celebrate the love of my life, Scott Bergstrom. My Scott was such a thoughtful, wonderful, and caring man. I'm not sure I can really express just how much I'm going to miss him. Not only was Scott the love of my life, but a wonderful father, grandfather, best friend, and colleague. So much more. Scott's ability to make everyone feel comfortable, secure, and loved were his greatest strengths. What a hug he would embrace you with. His warm and strong arms were just like a blanket of comfort, a true big bear hug. It has been over 15 years since I first met him here in Reno on October 15, 2006. I look back over those years with so much happiness. I remember it like it was yesterday. The first wink from him was on a Match.com website a week before we met. He described himself as a 54-year-old male. His catchline was, "I trust this needn't be a cute come-on. Something will guide my girl to read this. There are no coincidences. You will know if this looks right." So this is what Scott wrote as far as he and his ideal match. "I am reasonably quiet, intelligent, and prone to take on more projects than I have time for. I have spent my entire adult life working very hard to make certain my family has had few limitations, their goals and aspirations. My 3 kids have all graduated from college 2 this spring and are all in medical fields. Go figure. I'm very proud of them all. I have been divorced about 5 years. I feel we were not designed to live or die alone, but should enjoy the companionship of another to share all the joys and successes, surprises, and even sadness. Without that person, what's the point? Aside from my children, I've been missing that companionship far too long. I haven't the time, patience, or game to go bar hopping, hunting for my mate. In quotes, it's pretty unlikely my perfect mate would be there anyway. So here I am on a dating site, never thought I would take this path, hoping that my girl is watching the same moon. I take simple pleasure in gardening, some kind of stress therapy I think I feel as I am working through an area that I'm preparing it for the day it will give me someone else pleasure too. I designed and helped build my house on a hill overlooking Reno. I love this town, except for the traffic, construction. I was born and raised here. This is my town. I usually wake between 5 and 6, sit on the back deck, and through a cup or two of Irish coffee, plan my morning. I am not looking to date a lot. I find this whole process a little bit humiliating somehow. I don't believe in coincidences. God has a plan and a sense of humor. If you look back at all the sequences of events in your life and how you came to be here, right here, right now, on this broken path like me, you may see the most incredible unfinished mosaic. Won't it be fun to finish it together? If there's one thing I'd like you all to remember from today, Scott was a very kind, caring, and loving man. Every day he would remind me, I will love you today, tomorrow, and always. Scott always paid me a compliment every day we had together. Even on the days I felt and looked my worst, he would say, "You're beautiful." I felt loved from the very first day that we met until the day he passed away. I will love him as long as I still have breaths. Life isn't measured by the number of breaths, it's by the moments that take our breath away. I can see Scott smiling now and saying, "Where's Nina?" Nina's our German Shepherd. He loved that dog. And that dog is missing him terribly. She waits by either the front door or the garage door every day, waiting for him to come home. I sincerely appreciate that I've had this opportunity to present to you my story about how Scott and I met. God bless you, Scott, my lovey. Rest in peace until we meet again. I'll be looking for your hand to hold on to as we finally walk down and bless the broken road together forever. I just want to say a special heartfelt shout out to all the Star Sound staff. As Scott would have said, splendid, simply splendid. Thank you.
A few of us, about a month ago, were in the office at Star Sound talking about Scott and his friends. A number of names came up. When this man's name came up, Susan made a comment, and I turned to Susan and I said, "Susan, Greg is Scott's brother." Greg Golden.
Thank you so much. The only thing I can say with Scott, he was first of all, he was my best friend since 1967. I lived also on 7th Street, went to Clayton, went to Worcester High School, graduated UNR, same Scott, and was lucky enough that we played together on the road and played music for 10 years or so, and he still did my sound, DVD just recently. He was the most truthful, most honest, most loving person I've ever met in my life. What he said was the gospel, and I'll never get over it myself. This is like, I've had one best friend in my life, and it was Scott. And I'm the one that found him. And Katie, I'm sorry you were there that night. Frank Graney was there, and so was Andy. All I would like to say is that the thing that's kind of kept me together is this is to expand on what Jeffrey said. And I've known Scott probably longer than anyone except for Susie and Bergie. And I know his expressions when his children were born, when my children were born. Our kids are almost the same age, so it was like we went to dinner on Saturday night. Barbara knows the kids would be throwing a fit. Everybody would be all screaming at the same time. So anyway, but we had many years together, and I'm honored to have had, 57 years of love from Scott and trust from Scott and back and forth, and he loved me just like I loved him. But I just want to say one thing, that at the very end of this all, I was there when Scott caught a 15-foot sailfish in Mexico. I was there when he caught a 50-pound catfish hunting. I was there when our children were born, his children were born. And the look on Scott's face when I found him at his last moments, he had reached the gates of heaven. And that kept me going. And it's no matter what your beliefs are, I believe that he found the Lord, and just like Jeffrey said. And it's been my pleasure also to have been a part of the Bergstrom family, which I love dearly. And I'll miss Scott to the day I die. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. So there were a number of people who worked at Star Sound. Some came, some went, some came and went, some went and came. To be able to represent Star Sound Audio today, it's my pleasure to introduce Nick.
This is going to be pretty hard, but just everyone knows that the Star Sound staff, everyone that's worked with Scott, so many of you here are hearing all of these stories for the first time. Scott was able to live 10 lifetimes in one with his family and his friends, and we got to live a life with him as well. Whether it was 4 a.m. or really, really late nights racing home from Trinidad on a highway, kind of scared out of our lives. We had some pretty crazy experiences, and the best thing I can say is that when I met Scott, he looked at me and he's like, "You like music?" I said, "Yeah, I play about 12 instruments." He's like, "What do you think about mixing the Philharmonic?" I said, "Sign me up, this sounds amazing." And spent the last decade dedicating whatever time that I was with Star Sound and when I was not to mix the Philharmonic and do it the way he wanted. And at the Spirit of the Season this year, about a week before he passed, we finally got it to a point when it was like, here you go. And I remember Saturday night, Lynette came to the show and he just sat next to her and he got to watch it. And I went down to the studio about 2 days later, and we got the desk set up. We loaded everything up from the show and said, "Here it is. This is what you've always wanted. Have some fun." You know, I'm so thankful to hear all these stories, to be a part. You know, of all the memories that I've had with Scott. He's been like a father to me. He taught me to do everything. He taught me to invent things. If you're in a struggle, there's always a way out. Sometimes I'd show up early to a load-in, and he'd have one of these subs somehow coming off the back of his pickup truck by himself, and he got it. But he always taught every single one of us how to be the best people that we can be, whether we're working with family. He taught me what it meant to be a community leader in Reno and to be one from the shadows. He never wanted to be the one doing things, but it was always important to do everything the best way the first time, no matter what. It didn't matter what we were getting paid. It didn't matter what was going on, whether it was for a high school graduation or if it was for a KISS concert. Everything had to be perfect, because that's what makes the show go on. I want to thank the Bergstrom family for everything over the last month and having a lot of conversations. And, I'm really excited to continue to be with Star Sound for the long haul. Thank you, guys.
As I said earlier, Scott loved doing shows. You all knew that, I'm sure. But the one that he enjoyed the most was the orchestra. Today, representing the Reno Philharmonic Orchestra, former CEO, Tim Young.
Thanks, Mark. Oh, gosh. You've heard about how much Scott enjoyed the Phil. It was so much our privilege to get to work with him. For 19 years, I was the CEO, and Scott was my main man. He was the first person I called. Today, I want to talk a little bit about his humility, his generosity, and his dedication. I don't know if you know just how good Scott and the team are. In most cases, an orchestra gets to rehearse with their sound guys. You do a whole show sound check, rehearsing everything in detail. But for many of what the Reno Phil does, we sit down at Wingfield Park, we sit down up at Lake Tahoe. Scott and the team had been working all day long to get things set up. We had just 15 minutes for those guys to sound check before we did an entire show. And how many times, that first song, it might not have been perfect, but by the second song, he had everything dialed. He was ahead of the pack in his use of the electronics, the iPad, and so on. Just unbelievable work. And his humility, at the end of every show, I'd go up to Scott and say, "This was the best show ever, Scott. People loved it. It sounded fantastic. Thank you so much." And he'd just look at me and say, "Fooled him again." And his generosity, with his time, with his equipment, with his knowledge, his experience, the value to an institution to be able to call up somebody like Scott and say, "Hey, we've got this crazy idea. We want to fly a drone with a screen and do this," and have Scott be able to say, "Okay, we can't do that exactly, but this is how we can do it. This is how much it'll cost. We'll be able to do that for you," and then just follow through it and do it. He never refused to call. He always gave me his wisdom and his experience so beautifully. And then, his dedication. Best example I have is the show at Incline, working for Red, White, and Tahoe Blue. It was a difficult day in many ways already, and then Scott was riding down the field on the back of a pickup truck and managed to fall off, and his foot went under the truck and got smashed. But it's Scott, right? So he went to the medical center. He got his boot, he got his drugs, he came back with a smashed foot and ran the show. There was no going back for Scott. I mean, I just wish so much that I had that chance to say thanks again to Scott and just let me hear him say, "Fooled him again."
Fooled him again. Scott loved the arts. He was challenged by this next beautiful lady. the Executive Director of Reno Art Town, Beth McMillan.
Hello again. So on behalf of Art Town, I would like to really pay my respects to the Bergstrom family, to the Star Sound family, to the arts industry family. I am so sorry for all of our loss. It is with a huge heart that I stand before you and tell you a few things and try and keep it light because it is such a sad occasion. I think Scott thought I was a little crazy. I would call him and say, can you meet me at City Hall? We've got to go to the roof of City Hall. And he'd say, what do you want? I said, just meet me there. We'll figure it out when you get there. And I'd say, okay, I need the stage to be on the side of the building. Can you light that and sound it? And he would look at me and go, I think you're crazy, but okay, let's do it. Then I'd call him and say, could you meet me at Liberty Restaurant downstairs where JCPenney used to be? I want to make a Scottish castle. I need you to sound it and provide lighting without seeing the sound or seeing the lights and sound. It has to be invisible. And I never had to say how, why, where. He would just get it done. And then last year, in 2020, we had a miserable art town. We pulled it off. We did it online, virtually. But I said to my team, there is no way in 2021 we're not going to have an in-person festival. So I found the space, and I called Scott, just like Tim, my first phone call always. I said, meet me up at Rancho San Rafael. So he meets me up at Rancho San Rafael. I said, see this giant park? I think there were 6 acres is what Raquel told me there were. This giant park. I want to make social distance seating, and I want to have an in-person event here the whole of July next year. He said to me, it's going to be very expensive. I said, I don't think that was the question. I think the question was, can we do it? He said, of course we can do it. I am your partner, we'll make it happen. And out of all the things that Scott and Star Sound, his team, have done for Art Town, last year, making possible an opportunity for our community to come together during COVID and feel safe in an extraordinary venue on a beautiful stage with the most incredible sound, lights, and video wall. The entire community is so honored to have been there, and we could never have done what we did without Scott. He expected excellence, not only of himself, but his team. And I can tell you that I saw some really difficult artists talking to his team, and the respect and kindness that the Star Sound team showed the artists when it was unbelievable. You would think that there's a limit to how much they can take. But Scott, it comes from the top down. He taught everybody to be respectful, to be kind, and we all expect excellence out of our shows, just as Scott had showed us all these years. I don't know how we're going to fill those shoes, but I sure know that the guys at Star Sound are going to do it for Scott and for the community. Thank you so much. And I am so honored to know his family and the inside stories of his family. I did not know. He was a very private man. He never shared a lot about his family, and it is such an honor to have heard your stories and seen the love that you have for your father, and your son, and your brother, and your lover, and I'm sure that everybody here feels the same. Thank you so much for sharing him with us.
So with that, we've shared a number of things for you. Would anyone like to share anything? We have an open mic time. If you do, please come on up.
Hi, I'm Gilbert Trujillo. Is that really you? Wow. It's great to see a lot of people here for Scott. I was his first employee back in the Sun Valley days. I knew Scott from buying a bunch of equipment before he had a store, and also bought stuff from Greg. And at one point they said, hey, we're doing this store out in Sun Valley. Do you want to work? And I go, sure. Don't know what I'm doing. But Scott and Greg took me under their wing. They've been like family ever since. I went away to school 20-something years ago, and I came back, and I wasn't quite as in the loop as I used to be. But Scott was truly an amazing guy. I remember going to Sigma Newhouse, where he'd pretty much camped out there. He had his room completely, it was Scott's room, and it was crazy, the stuff he had in there. I'd like to tell a couple funny stories, though. One time he was working on his van. I can't remember what he was doing, but he was drilling, and he put his hand on the outside, and he drilled right through his hand. Do you remember that? Yeah, yeah. And he just backed it out. I mean, he didn't cry. He just kind of said, okay, I'm just going to back this thing out. And another time, my dad, who is a glassman, was at the Sigma Newhouse, and Scott, I don't know why, was on the roof and said hi to my dad and fell off, and he hit his chest on a fence post. And my dad went running to him. But I think the funniest story is I was probably, 20 years old, and I got a little drunk at a bizarre Christmas party. I got pretty drunk, and I was in a band too, and I had a show to do. So Greg and Scott take me out to the parking lot, and they each pick me up by a leg, and they start shaking me, trying to get the keys to fall out of my pocket, and kind of drop me, take me to my dad's house, and my dad about killed me. But Scott and Greg were quite the family to me back in those days, and I will love Scott forever. It's hit me quite hard. And a lot of my friends, I know Mark Ishikawa and some of these guys, they know I'm a gear hog, but I got it from Scott. Scott is the guy that got me hooked on all the latest, coolest stuff, and I'm still buying all the latest, coolest stuff. And that's exactly where I got it from. So rest in peace, my brother.
There's a lot of love in the room. You know, my parents moved to Reno. It took me a while, but I found them. Learned my way around. Learned to only bring what you want to lose if you want to pull a few handles. Made some friends, started playing some music, and then I met two people that very, very prominent individuals, hardworking individuals that would be, well, down on Audie Boulevard, this would be the epicenter of so many great things that would happen as Reno grew. And, you know, you think about LA and Vegas. Vegas was a gas station after World War II, and it grew really big. And, you know, it's the LA, we're the San Francisco. There's so much culture and heritage and so much musical history. But the two guys that I met that were, like, for me, all of a sudden a big feather in my hat because I met some people in the business, Greg Golden and Scott Bergstrom. Robin was at the store when I recorded, I was the first person to record at Star Sound Audio. She was like in a little walker or something, you know. Scott always encouraged me. Scott was very patient and very kind, as we've heard. He was a genius. Being the first person to record at Star Sound Audio, I got some things done and it helped launch things. And then Scott always supported me throughout. At the radio station, if we need a PA to be up on the roof because 10 Seconds to Mars are going to play, whatever we needed, Scott was always there. Whenever I needed a PA, if I'd booked a gig or something, I always had. Matter of fact, one time on a Labor Day weekend, I showed up at the store. It was empty. Everything has been rented. Everything is gone. There's one PA left. It's for me. There's a huge guy with a beard the size of Texas in overalls who's got a bluegrass show, and he wants that PA. At that moment, Casey and the Sunshine Band walked in, and they wanted that PA. So a bidding war ensued. And Scott said, Max, you want to take your PA? Shut out. Big bearded grizzly guy, Yosemite Sam, Casey and the Sunshine Band. If Scott loved you, Scott loved you. You know, and the last great moment we had together, I had recorded an album, and Todd mixed it, and I brought him one down, and it was just before Art Town this year launched. On a Friday night, the first show, Eric Henry Anderson and friends up on stage. The wind came up. The rain came down. The tents were flying around. Out of the sound booth, I walked over to just kind of show some support and help my friends. Todd's there. Tyler Bournes is there. And Scott's got this look on his face like, and I go, yeah, electricity and water is not a good combination, but you know, this too shall pass. And it was a great night. But it was great to spend that moment together. He always encouraged me. I mean, I got on the radio, and I've never been a DJ. I'm a fan with a microphone. And that's because I had a lot of great friends that I learned from them, and I just brought it to the table. And so I just want to close by saying, as the sun has his head for another night's rest, and the wind sings the same old song, and you on the edge, always close, never far. I was there when I needed a friend. And it's hard living life on this merry-go-round. I was up, I was down, spinning round and round and round. And all of this could be a dream, so it seems. I was never much good at goodbye. But it's not goodbye. Because he lives on in all the love he left us. Every single one of us knew this man and knew his integrity, and we're very fond of him. So live loud, live kind, and live patiently. Thank you.
Sorry. How y'all doing today? My name's David. I'm a lighting guy with Star Sound, and I started with Star Sound 7 years ago. To be honest, I didn't know anything about the industry. I didn't know how to wrap cables properly, and that's when I met Scott. And at first, you know, obviously he was a business owner, so he sees this young guy who doesn't know anything, and he has to pay him for knowing nothing. But he saw something in me that I didn't, that nobody else did, and he pushed me and encouraged me because he knew something I didn't, apparently, for the future. and to where we are now, I've grown, and everything I know is because of his encouragement and the way that he would push all of Star Sound and really everyone that he's ever spoken to. He would push everybody to be 100%, and nothing less. Scott was such an amazing person to me and my family, to Star Sound, to everyone around, to the community, to the city of Reno. I'm born and raised in Reno, Nevada, and I've always had a lot of pride for being from Reno, but hanging out with Scott almost every single day for the past 7 years, my love for Reno has grown so much. My love for Art Town, for the Philharmonic, for everything Reno has grown because of Scott. I was so happy to hear, Nick, your guys' accomplishments with the Philharmonic. I really would like people to understand how big and heavy that really is, because one of Scott's goals, one of his dreams, was to get that recording. I know it may not sound like much, but to him it was one of his dreams, and to finally be able to accomplish that's so amazing. That's so amazing. Philharmonic, you guys are awesome. Thank you guys for being able to help him fulfill his dream. You guys are so awesome. Reno is so awesome. So learning by Jeff, Scott's religious side, I did not know that. I'm a Christian boy myself, and that explains why every time I'd go to Scott to help either my church or really any other church, because that's just where my heart is at, I'd go to Scott, and he would always jump in so fast, so quick, and I never understood why. Now I do, which is so awesome, because we'll see each other again. So he's helped so many churches here, just so you guys know that. So many churches, so many organizations, so many people. He was amazing. Star Sound, I know things are different now because Dad's not around, because to me, he was also a father figure to me, and he was a really good friend, a really good mentor, just a great person. But we know he's around, we know he's here, and Star Sound will live on forever. And long live my good friend, and long live the great Scott Bergstrom. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Scott. I just want to share one quick story with y'all about Scott's kindness and his love for the community. Even if I'm a metal guy, and Philharmonic, there was this one time we were setting up a show, and some speakers were blown, and we didn't know about it. So we have this thing all set up. It's Friday, and man, we get it all set up, and speakers are blown. I set it up through Star Sound to go down and rent some mains. Throughout the day, I forget. I'm running wild. I finally sit back down in my house. My beard's crazy. You're right, it is now from the mask. I'm sure it was all over my face. And I go, oh my God! It's like 5:30 in the afternoon. This place is closed. I'm like, oh man, it's gonna be my fault. I blew it. I call up Star Sound. Scott's still there. Scott, can I come down and oh, you're still there. And he goes, yeah, you're lucky. I'm on my way out. I'll wait for you. Hurry up. Man, I'll be there in 3 seconds. I hop in the truck, run down there, get down there. Sure enough, he's got it right by the door for me. He's got everything ready. And go up to handle the paperwork, and I'm like, oh man, I ran out of the house without my wallet, without anything, without anything. And the kindness of him, that's my point is, he's handle it when you bring it back. You know, when you come back, you can handle all that stuff. It's okay. No problem, Stocko. And that was like the kindness and the awesomeness of Scott. No matter what, man, the show must go on. Thank you, Scott.
Hello, Tom Sheridan. I've worked for Greg, or subcontracted for Greg, for about 36 years now. I think I'm the second longest employee to Gilbert Trujillo. Along the way there was a short period of time Greg and I didn't quite see eye to eye on how to manage the service department at Bizarre Guitar, so I went to work for Scott. And Scott hired me right at the point where I had twin boys, so I really needed the job. It was a good thing to do. And kind of came up a little short in the sales department, and so the current manager at that time was going to chuck me out the door when my brother, who was managing rentals at the time, said, "Hey, you're getting ready to lose a good man." And Scott recognized that, and he said, "You work in rentals." So I always remember that. I'll never forget it. Also, Scott was hard to impress. And I play guitar and I sing. He was never really impressed with my playing or my singing. Well, he works with national acts almost every day, so you figure he's working with the hardest working, most talented people in show business almost every day. So his answer to me usually when he saw me play was, "You know how to get to Carnegie Hall, right?" And it was a pleasure, though. The few times I got to play on one of Scott's PA systems, I knew I was being broadcast through one of the most state-of-the-art sound systems in the western United States. So it was always a pleasure to do. Scott usually walked away because, you know, as the years went on, his taste got a little finer, and he much preferred mixing the Philharmonic to mixing a hard rock band. So he'd turn it over to one of his employees, which he was usually a friend of mine, so up the sliders went. And I think I still hold the record for nice, clear decibels down on South Wells Avenue below 2nd Street when we were playing at the fairgrounds on a stage next to a building there. So I still think we may have that volume record. One of the funniest things I remember and always remember about Scott, even though he was never really impressed with me as a musician, I did an art project for him once, and he was completely blown away by the fact that I could make little cars for his drive-in in his front yard for his Christmas display at his house. It was massive, it was huge, and I think he won the award that year. What he was impressed with was when I got my pilot's license, and he proceeded to tell me the story about the time that he went to get his pilot's license. And the day that they soloed him, in other words, he's all by himself in the airplane, he decided that the best place to land was in the parking lot of the airport. And he told me that was the last day he flew an airplane. My brother told me to say, my brother was Scott's lighting director for 12 years. He worked for Scott for 26 years, and he told me to leave off with this: Godspeed, Scott.
Good evening. My name is Daniel Steffen. Scott was my uncle. I will miss him thoroughly. I didn't get enough time with my uncle, period, end of story. But what I will always remember are the iguanas, the bear hugs, and the tickles when I was younger. And he always wanted to be around you. And it didn't matter if you were miles and miles away. We would always get together for our family. And we would take the time to call the cousins. Some of the times I only got to see these guys. I always appreciated it. Because sometimes we didn't have the time, But Scott made sure that we all saw each other. I want to thank every one of you, because Scott was who he was because of us. He may have shared an amazing, amazing life with everyone here. But thank you for being a part of his life. And I just want to say that I'm going to miss you. I wish I had more time. And I love you. Thank you all.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Visna. My husband went to work with Scott when he was 16 years old. His name was Kent Visna. The first laminate that Kent has from Scott was in 1976. That's how long Kent had worked with Scott. Kent always said that Scott was the big brother that he never had, because he helped him in his career. He made him the lighting man that he was too, and he spent a lot of time with Scott. I don't know if you kids remember, but once upon a time your parents went to Europe, and my husband and I, hi Barbara, my husband and I babysat your children. I think we were about one of the few couples that he thought my husband would be stern enough with the kids. My husband spent the whole week with the kids, and I would go over for dinner. I remember Robin was so surprised that my husband had actually made baked potatoes in the oven. I have a lot of fun memories with Scott. Scott gave me this shirt. This is my Star Sound Audio employee shirt. Once upon a time, they were shorthanded, and I got this shirt on the evening that they were shorthanded and not knowing what to do. They threw me up on the tower and made me run follow spot for a cover band of the Beatles at Hot August Nights. So I've always treasured this shirt because Scott gave it to me, threw it up there at me, and just told me to go for it. And so I did. But he didn't fire me when I dropped the shot of Jägermeister on the mix board either, though. He did caution me and tell me that no more Jägermeister in the mix anymore. And at the end of the evening, he did give me a huge hug. When my husband passed away, Scott, again, was a shoulder to cry on. And you're all right, those hugs. When he gave me a hug, and I crumbled into his arms, and he told me that it was all going to be okay. And I just know that Kent was the one holding the gate open for him when he got up there. So, missing you both. Thank you.
My name is Bill Stevens. Up until 2 years ago, had a company here in Reno called Bill Stevens Productions. In 1982, I needed some new equipment for a project I was working on, and I asked several of my friends, musician friends, who should I go to? Where should I go? And they all said, Scott Bergstrom at Star Sound. So I looked up Star Sound, I went there, and fortunately Scott was available. He had other good salespeople there, but he listened to me, what I needed, and then showed me the equipment that I needed, and not only showed me the equipment, but showed me how to use it, and he made sure that I knew how to run that equipment before I even could put a penny down on it. And that started my relationship with Star Sound. As a video producer, primarily a video producer, I had the opportunity to work with many of the Star Sound people in different venues around the city. And I always knew that when I was going there to work, I knew that everything was going to be done right. Not only done right, but done with a good attitude. I was in a barbershop chorus here in Reno, and I was asked, we were planning a big event, and our meeting planner asked me for 3 references for good sound companies. And I only thought for a moment, and I said, Scott Bergstrom, Star Sound, Scott Bergstrom. And that was it. Throughout my years here, working alongside with and for and hiring Star Sound to do things for me, I found such pleasure in working with everybody. And I knew that when I got there for a job, that the job was going to be done right. I would like everybody, every Star Sound employee, would you please stand up and be recognized for the efforts and what you put into. Thank you, thank you. And Scott, you certainly will be missed, but your attitude, your phenomenal knowledge of the business will be carried on by these wonderful people. Thank you.
Good almost evening. For those of you who do not know who I am Becky. I am Mark's daughter, and I like to think of myself as Scott's goddaughter, essentially. He was a huge part of my life and my family's life. Most of my childhood was spent at shows with my dad and Scott, who was such a warm and loving person, and I think that that has been reiterated numerous times today. But it's true. And I was very fortunate to grow up looking up to his kids. And my brother was very similar in age, and they all looked out for me my entire life. And I was so fortunate to be able to look up to them as this shining example, because Scott did demand excellence, and he got it in all of us. And I have been so blessed to get those big bear hugs that he loved to give. And every time he walked in a room, it lit up. And I think that that is the truest testament to the man that Scott Bergstrom was. And I just want to say thank you to this incredible family for always embracing us, my dad. You guys know how much he meant to us, and it is an honor to be here today. And I just would really like to thank all of you who came out to celebrate his life with us. It's completely unexpected that we're all gathering here in this manner, but I know he's here with us. And I love all of you very, very much.
We have a little adjustment we have to do.
Last time we saw my grandpa, he made a thing. Our house has like rocks in the backyard, and we have a like snake-shaped rock, and he made it look like a he put fangs on it and eyes. And if you ever watch the Marvel, there's a guy named Thanos. He has like lines down his chin, and we put that on it, and now we call it like a snake thing.
Hi, everybody. My name is Charlize Jess. I am Robin's daughter. I have two stories. One of them is, so Grandpa Scott was just sitting sitting in the chair at the counter, and I came in and I looked at him and he looked so bored. So I just gave him a Rubik's Cube, and he just like stared at me like, "Are you kidding me?" And I was like, "No, Grandpa, try it." And then I spun it around and showed him a little bit. And then he tried, he took 4 to 6 hours for him to at least get one side done. And I was like, "Well, Grandpa, are you sure you want to finish it? It's getting late outside." And he was like, "Well, I started it, I just can't finish it." So he's finally finished it, really late. And a point that if he starts something, he will always finish it. And then lastly, one more story that I have is when he came over to visit again, he brought a drone. We were flying it around our property, and we have really big oak trees everywhere. And he got it stuck at the very top of it. And the first thing he thought of was he tried to move it around and it didn't work. So he didn't even think about getting a ladder. He climbed up the whole tree, the very top, and got it. If he messed up, he'll get it, fix it, and even make it better. I miss you and love you, Grandpa.
My name is Jake Joss. I am Scott's grandkid. I don't know what to say next. I'm Savannah. I'm also Robin's kid. I just want to say one thing. I miss you and love you, Grandpa.
Sure. So, you've probably heard my little brother come up here and talk about how Grandpa Scott put up the dragon lizard thingy, whatever it was. So we went through a big process. First, it was cutting wood that looked like the teeth looked the same. 50 tries later, not done. And then it was trying to put it up. We tried tape. Then we had to go to the store, to the Home Depot, and buy rock or wood, I don't know, wood glue or something like that. Well, it did end up working, and yeah.
That was awesome. Absolutely awesome. Bergstrom family, please. While they're coming up, on behalf of Scott and Star Sound Audio, I would like to thank the Eldorado and Silver Legacy at the Row, Peppermill Resort Spa and Casino, and all who reached out to Star Sound during this difficult time. I would really like to thank the Nugget Casino, Leon Johnson, John Legg, Rob DeLong, and Ron McNichol. They helped get the room ready. They made this event happen. I would like to thank again the Reno Philharmonic String Quartet for their beautiful music. The media presentation that you're about to see was put on by Cameron Paris and Whitney Thomas. They worked tirelessly, as I said earlier, to make that thing happen. Lee, Susan, it's an honor, absolute honor. Robin, Ben, and Jeff, my 3 other children. Here's Robin.
On behalf of my brothers and I, we would like to recognize and appreciate our Star Sound family. If you can all re-stand for a round of applause. Thank you. The hard work and commitment that this team has made on behalf of Star Sound Audio is only a glimpse of what the future holds for this company. We stand united together to ensure that his legacy continue for decades to come. Thank you very much.
And with that, I'm just going to pray us out. We'll all bow our heads. Lord Father, I want to thank you just one more time for putting this great man on earth. I was lucky enough to have him as my father. Thank you for the light that he shone on the people's lives that he touched, and just being a child of God. I thank you. Let us strive to live like him, and just help us be patient. Help us give grace, for you give us grace. Let us give mercy, for you give us mercy. Let us bless others, for we are blessed. Thank you for always being by our side, especially during this, being our rock. May our future memories of Scott bring joy instead of sorrow. Let us laugh together. Let's all share stories together. And let's just give thanks for a wonderful, wonderful man. Thank you, Lord Jesus. We love you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
So my final comments. Scott, I know for a fact, is up with Lee Taggart, Terry Peterson, Norm Nielsen, so many others that we've all known. And what is he doing? What is Scott doing right now? Get on with it. He has an expletive that was before that I'm not allowed to say up on stage. 99% of you know what that is. So injured, get on with it. With that, I'd like to start the slideshow.
What a dream I had, pressed in organdy, clothed in crinoline of smoky burgundy, softer than the rain. I wandered empty streets down, past the shop displays. I heard cathedral bells dripping down the alleyways as I walked on. And when you ran to me, your cheeks flushed with the night. We walked on frosted fields of juniper and lamplight. I held your the same. If I saw you in heaven, I must be strong and carry on, 'cause I know I don't belong here in heaven. Would you hold my hand if I saw you in heaven? Would you help me stand if I saw you in heaven? I'll find my way through night and day, 'cause I know I just can't stay here in heaven. Time can bring you down, time can bend your knee. Time can break your heart, have you begging please, begging beyond the door. There's peace, I'm sure, and I know there'll be no more tears in heaven. Would you know my name if I saw you in heaven? Would it be the same if I saw you in heaven? I must be strong and carry on, 'cause I know I don't belong here in heaven. 'Cause I know I don't belong here in heaven. Get your motor running, head out on the highway, looking for adventure, and whatever comes our way. Yeah, gotta go make it happen, take the world in a loving embrace, fire all of the guns at once and explode into space. I like smoking lightning, heavy metal thunder, racing with the wind, and the feeling that I'm under. Yeah, I gotta go the motor running. Head out on the highway, looking for adventure, and whatever comes our way. Yeah, darling, go make it happen. Take the world in a loving embrace. Fire all of your guns at once and explode into space. And let the true nature shine. We were born to be wild. We can climb so high. I never wanna die. Born to be wild. Born to be wild. I set out on a narrow way many years ago, hoping I would find true love along the broken road. But I got lost a time or two, wiped my brow and kept pushing through. I couldn't see how every sign pointed straight to you. That every long lost dream led me to where you are. Others who broke my heart, they were like northern stars, pointing me on my way into your loving arms. This much I know is true, that God bless the broken road that led me straight to you. Yes, it did. I think about the years I spent just passing through, lying to have the time I lost and give it back to you. But you just smile and take my hand. You've been there, you understand. It's all part of a grander plan that is coming true. Every long lost dream led me to where you are. Others who broke my heart, they were like northern stars, pointing me on my way into your loving arms. This much I know is true, that God bless the broken road that led me straight to you. And now I'm just rolling home into my lover's arms. This much I know is true. When I am down and oh my soul so weary, when troubles come and my heart burdened be, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me.